Hello everyone. Our today topic is atmospheric stability and temperature inversion. So first we shall talk about the lapse rate. As we know that we have already discussed about the segments or layers or zones of atmospheres. So for the first layer that is adjacent to the ground surface is called as troposphere. So what we have studied in the troposphere, the temperature decreases with altitude, right? The same thing is written here in case of lapse rate. Lapse rate is the rate of temperature decrease with height in the atmosphere. So there are two types of lapse rate. The first one is called an ambient or environmental lapse rate. What does it mean? A lapse rate is a rate at which temperature changes with altitude. Altitude is defined at the height above the sea level. See, ambient or environmental lapse rate completely depends upon the wind, sunlight, and geographical features of the Earth. And definitely, it varies from location to location on the Earth. So, the one thing here, the ambient lapse rate is always different from the adiabatic lapse rate. So, we shall see what do you mean by the adiabatic process and adiabatic lapse rate. A process during which there is no heat transfer is called adiabatic process. How it is possible? This is possible by two ways. Either a system is well insulated or both the system and the surroundings are at the same temperature. Then only the heat transfer will not be there. The lapse rate of a parcel of dry air, this is example, little sphere of air, moves upward without exchange of heat is known as adiabatic lapse rate. So how adiabatic lapse rate occurs? When the air parcel rises in the atmosphere, it goes through the region of decreasing pressure and expands to accommodate the decreasing temperature. What is going to happen? Suppose a air parcel moves in the upward direction. There is no heat transfer, right? But what is happening? The pressure is also going to decrease as we move in the upward direction. So due to change in pressure, right? What is going to happen? There is a decrease in internal energy in the air parcel. It may be a smoke also. The smoke emitted through the chimney, thereby decreasing the temperature. So decrease in internal energy in the air parcel is the reason for the decrease in temperature, which is due to the difference in pressure in the atmosphere. The pressure goes on decreasing with altitude. Next, we can see the topic atmospheric stability. The stability of air defines its ability to mix and disperse pollutants. Air can be unstable, stable, or neutral, right? A comparison of the adiabatic lapse rate, which we have discussed in the previous slide, and ambient lapse rates gives an idea of the stability of the atmosphere or atmospheric stability. So the first one is unstable. When the atmosphere is unstable, that we shall see here, when the ambient lapse rate, which is also called as environmental lapse rate, exceeds the adiabatic lapse rate, the atmosphere is highly unstable. And this, in this case, ambient lapse rate is termed as super adiabatic, right? Unstable air results in turbulent motion associated with free convection, natural convection due to buoyancy within the atmosphere. Buoyancy motion enhances upward penetration of air parcel, which may be a smoke emitted through the chimney into the atmosphere, thus helping to disperse pollutants. Air is unstable because the net buoyancy force acting on the parcel accelerates it either upward or downward, depending upon the temperature or density difference between the parcel and its surrounding environment. Unstable conditions are prevalent during daytime when convection carries heat upward from the soil surface. So unstable environment causes the turbulent, and it is more beneficial for the dilution of the pollutants. The buoyancy forces acts, and it occurs in the daytime. It has been found that normally between the 12 to 2 p.m., the atmosphere is highly unstable. Now we can see the next point in under the atmospheric stability. When the atmosphere is stable, we can see if the ambient lapse rate, this is very important things, ambient, the difference between the ambient lapse rate and adiabatic lapse rate are the region for the stability of the atmosphere. Whether the atmosphere is unstable or stable or neutral, it depends upon these two things. So what it says, the second condition, if the ambient lapse rate is less than the dry adiabatic lapse rate, the atmosphere is stable, and the ambient lapse rate in this case will be called as subadiabatic. In a stable air, turbulence is suppressed or even absent. As in a stable condition, buoyancy tends to restore an adiabatically displaced parcel to its original height. In other words, buoyancy force acts in the direction opposite to the motion of the displaced parcel. A stable condition occurs most often at night when convective heat flow is the downward from the atmosphere to the soil surface. Pollution is poorly dispersed on days or night when the atmosphere is stable. See, a stable environment, atmosphere remains stable normally in the night, especially in winter season. The earth becomes cool, right? And above the ground surface or just adjacent to the ground surface, the air is cool. But above that, the air is warm. So in that case, it is the temperature goes on increases with altitude in case of stable conditions. So movement of pollutants will not be more as compared to unstable condition. This is also called as temperature inversion condition. A stable condition is also called as the temperature inversion condition. So the third is the when the two lapse rates are equal, that means ambient lapse rate and adiabatic lapse are both are equal. In that case, the atmosphere will be called as neutral condition, right? Neutral stability means that the buoyancy force is zero. That means the no forces will act on the pollutants, right? The pollutants will hang in the atmosphere. It will remain in suspension. That a balance exists between the gravity acting downward and the pressure gradient force acting upward on the parcel of the air. Neutral condition often occurs briefly after sunrise or before sunset when the convecting heat flow is due. Cloudy, windy days are also favorable for neutral stability. Please remember that the unstable conditions occurs in daytime. Normally, highest unstable conditions we can achieve during 12 to 2 p.m. In that case, atmosphere will be highly unstable, highly turbulent, high buoyancy forces will act, and in that case, the pollutants will go for higher dispersion, right? In case of stable conditions, a stable condition normally occurs in the night when the earth completely cools down, right? Temperature go on increases, right? And the pollutants will not disperse into the atmospheres. Ground level concentration will increase. Ground level concentration of the pollutant will increase. Whereas in case of the neutral condition, normally it occurs in the evening. So we can say in brief about these three things. In case of unstable conditions, buoyancy force enhance vertical motions, whereas in a stable condition, buoyancy force oppose vertical motions. The atmospheric is a simple way of categorizing the turbulent status of the atmosphere, which reflects the dilution rate of the pollutant. It plays the most important role in transport and dispersal of pollutants and can be defined as the atmospheric tendency to resist or enhance vertical motion. Next, we can say Our next topic is temperature inversion. Here I would like to say, tell you that we have already studied the segments of atmospheres, right? Atmospheric stability, lapse rate, temperature inversions, all are related to each other. So temperature inversion, as we know, in case of tropospheres, we know that the temperature goes on decreasing with altitude. But here temperature inversion, just opposite. That means inversion occurs when the temperature increases with height above the Earth's surface. Atmospheric inversion influences the dispersion of pollutants by restricting particle mixing, as we have seen in case of a stable condition. Usually two types of inversion develops. This question is also asked. What are the different types of temperature inversions? Explain. The first one is radiation inversion, that is also called a surface inversion, and subsidence or aloft inversions. Two types of inversions are there. So radiation inversion occurs at night when the Earth loses heat by radiation and cools the air in contact with. As I told you, that means stable conditions. In the winter season, Earth cools, right? And adjacent to the Earth or ground surface, whatever the air is there, it remains in cool. It remains cool. Above that, the air is warm. So vertical movement of the pollutants will decrease. The cool air stratum is covered by warmer air. The vertical movement is stopped until the morning sun warms the lower. So you can see this figure here. This is the ground surface. In the night, what is going to happen? The earth cools. So the adjacent to the earth's surface, the air remains cool. Above that, the warm air is there. Again, in the night, we can see the graphs temperature versus altitude. So temperature goes on decreasing. Again, this is the warm layer. And again, it goes on decreasing. In daytime, in the morning, when earth gets heated due to the sun, what happens? The inversion breaks, right? And our ground surface warms, and the inversion is going to be removed. Temperature inversion is going to be removed. So that's why the layer adjacent to the earth will be warm, then cooler in daytime, as the sun rays comes to the ground surface. So what we can say, it just get troposphere. The temperature goes on decreasing with the altitude. We can see the diagram. Temperature decreases as per the altitude. But this is the inversion condition and this is normal condition, which occurs in the tropospheres. Next, we can see about the radiation inversion. The inversion is more common in winter than in summer because of longer nights. Valleys area, because of the excision of horizontal air movement by surrounding high ground, frequently may have such type of inversion. Air pollutants emitted during the night are caught under the inversion heat. So suppose whatever the pollutants are going to be emitted from the ground surface into the atmosphere, it will not move in upward directions. It acts as a lead. The warm layer acts as a lead. Due to the inversion, formation of fog and simultaneous tracking of gases and particles takes place. The next inversion, temperature inversion, is the subsidence inversion. The subsidence inversion occurs in association with a stationary high pressure system. That means in the situation of anticyclone. In high pressure region, air aloft slowly sinks or subsides. What is air aloft? What do you mean by air aloft? Air aloft refers to air located high above the Earth's surface, typically in the atmosphere rather than at the ground. So we can see the air aloft available in the atmospheres. As this air descends from top to bottom, it undergoes adiabatic compression. And due to pressure increase, air warms in this zone. So this creates a warm layer above the cooler air near the surface. The warmer air aloft acts like a lid. So the compressed air, this part is going to be warm. It acts as a lid. It acts as a blanket, right? Prevent the cooler surface air from rising. Because upward convection is suppressed, pollutants and moisture get trapped near the ground. Because subsidence inversion may last from the several days to week, the result is highly polluted condition at the ground level. So this is about the today topic. We discussed about what is lapse rate, what is atmospheric stability, and what are the different types of temperature inversion. Thank you.